Be the fence right here. Deer sit there trying to jump to get through the fence over and over and over again. Then just walked across the street.
Are you talking about it being bent over here?
Yeah, it bent the fence, caved it in right there.
Okay.
Yeah, and then the one down there a little bit further was from a deer that I sent the pictures off to, trying to get back out.
Okay.
It died right in this spot. These tracks were really fresh not too long ago, but that's what's just mind-blowing. These things are absolutely not normal. Oh, there's only one in there right now. I don't know if any of you guys have got the pictures that I've sent off to Stockton, or
I haven't seen them, no.
they haven't been forwarded to you. Brian Wakeling's got them. Jack,
Rob?
yeah, Rob or Rob's or whatever.
Okay. And are
He's-
they just of the damage, or do you have
Right.
that deer that died maybe?
Yep, yeah, it died right. Well, it was dead right there.
Or you got caught inside the fence and ready to go?
Yeah, and that was before this one down the side here was finished.
Okay.
Just part of this one was it was a fairly small deer.
So you got this fence here, and then down the side, is it fenced on the back?
No,
of it
I
all?
started working on that, but then, yeah, I'm so discouraged, it's unreal.
Right.
You know, the deer have just been increasingly getting to be more and more of a problem.
Sure.
There's times when there's over 30 deer in my spot right here.
Okay. And how are they coming in and getting out?
Oh,
Typically?
they jump over the fence. I mean, you can't keep a barbed wire fence. Let's walk down here.
Yeah.
How far is your post spacing here?
Apart?
Yeah.
10 feet. From post to post?
Yeah, 10 feet. With lightweight top rail, lightweight posts, you need to move that closer to 8. That'll give you more rigidity. Tension wire on the bottom. I used to build fence.
Right,
All fence,
right.
so
But
I'm trying to help you out here. You're
I
actually
find-
tied really well. That's better than most people tie.
Well,
because
what-
that tying is what keeps it tight too.
Right, and see, I went bigger posts and stuff down the other side there. You can see that.
Mhm. Those are bigger. Yeah.
Yeah, they're all
obviously.
2 3/8.
And that's
because I didn't like
perfect.
the strength of this,
Uh-huh.
but I went with the stronger ends and stuff. But right there, I was like, well, I'll probably just put a gate here, you know, because of what the deer did, you know. But then after they did this down there, I'm just like, it's not really going to matter. I mean,
Well,
they're still going to destroy the wire. I mean, how do you fix
If
that?
you decide that you're going to completely fence yourself out here, then you'll probably be okay because this has been open for so long.
No, it
There-
hasn't. There was a fence across here. There was a great big cottonwood tree in
So
there.
wasn't this just, it was just a little half fallen down fence, so wasn't it?
No,
Not a
it's,
big
it
fence.
wasn't as tall.
Yeah.
But
So it's always been an
but-
egress type thing. So I think a lot of it will go away. The other thing is it's a little difficult to see because they're not used to seeing it. But as you close your thing out, I think your whole problem is because they just won't be in there anymore. And of course, like you said, they come right through the barbed wire. That's no problem.
Well, you know, and I kind of beg the difference there. There's a 6-foot fence downtown here that if you're not really careful and like that spot right there, they'll just go right in.
For your gates, you mean?
Oh yeah, any little gate, and then I'm going to end up with more of this because they'll go out of their way to get in there. That right there is proof of that. You know, you can't explain to me that deer isn't acting normal to sit there and run into that fence over and over again.
You get fairly crazy come rut time, that's
Well, and this is, I thought was early for compared to the rut time.
When
you
when
know?
when have you been having the issues? The last few weeks, last month, or?
Well, I've always had issues. When I first got the place, I tried to grow a garden right there, and then I thought, well, I'll save up some money and try to build a fence and keep them out. But it used to be extremely rare. You might have one come by once in a while in the fall and screw your garden up, right? Now there's 30 or 40 of them in here. They're everywhere.
When deer get pressured, they start.
How are they
moving.
pressured? They should be in the hills. That's my point.
Well, I mean, if you come out and they spook from you, and I'm not saying you're doing anything wrong by spooking them, but when you spook them, they start running blind. You can't expect them to act the way we are and have the same rationale. They're a different being, and when they are used to being able to jump this fence and they start running this way and trying to jump out, they're going to act differently. They're
Well-
normal deer. They're fine mentally, but they're trying to get out and
Or-
they're just running blind.
Or in. The fence is bent the wrong way for getting out.
Well, they can get spooked the other way too.
That one was
fine,
right
maybe.
right in the middle of the day, but there's a problem. The deer are everywhere in Preston. I mean, for me to have 2.5 acres with 30 deer on it, is that a problem?
Depends on your perspective.
They're
There's a
they're
lot of people-
destroying my place. No, I've talked to several people around town, and I really beg to differ that there's people that love them. And under this,
People, sir, there's people who love them and people who don't, and that's always been the argument and the fight down here. I've had to deal with this down here in the past, and we try and dart a deer that was a problem off of one property. He would jump the fence, he'd go into the next property, and we weren't allowed to trespass on him to go and
What's-
take care of that deer, and he was an aggressive acting buck. So
What's-
there is that issue that, and it goes back and forth. One landowner likes them, the next one hates them, kind of thing, and it's always been that way.
And
So
not just in Preston either. I mean, Spring Creek, where I live, it's the same issue. You know, there's eating their apples and
Pierce
plants,
subdivision in Ely.
gardens.
the canyon in Ely.
What-
Deer problems in the
Carson City.
canyon.
what's the long-term solution of this? There hasn't ever been a lot of deer in Preston until the last, I don't know, 15, 20 years. They have just, it's went from like maybe seeing one rarely to seeing maybe 10 in a herd, and then to seeing hundreds of them in a herd.
And you bring up a good
What-
point.
what-
Because
what-
we've
what is the
discussed these
solution
things
of
with
that?
if you want to call it the urban deer interface, and what you're seeing here is the same as Spring Creek. It's the same as the borderlands in Reno. It's Lovelock has deer pressured in off of the fields there. It's the same in Ely. There never used to be, when I first got to Ely, there was basically no deer in the Pierce subdivision. Now there's probably 50 to 60 on a daily basis. You
So-
know where the Pierces are?
No, I don't. I'm not
Behind
that
the
familiar with
hospital.
Ely. Oh yeah,
When you come
yeah.
in behind the Chevron, back up where all the kind of same like you are, they have
But-
orchards and critters and everything. So
What's-
I don't know what the dynamic is there and how that has come
What's-
about or evolved, but it's the same thing, and we're not alone here as we are in anywhere
What
else.
is the solution to it though?
So the solution at the moment for you is fencing. One of the things I would actually recommend too is for the basis. I mean, not forever and ever type thing, but just like people in fruit trees will put in spinners or something reflective or whatnot. Same thing they do on brand new barbed wire fences on the range. They put flagging on so critters figure out that they're there, so they don't just whack into them because they're not used to being there. I mean, work on these things. When you have an issue where they can come in and go out because of your back fence here, then until you're completely excluded, that's going to be harder to deal with it. When you're completely excluded, then I don't think you're going to have that issue anymore because it's too dang hard for them to get in and out. As long as you're good about your gates. And that's where sometimes happens. Folks aren't real good with their gates. And they kick the gate open and they go down. And you can
See, there's a few laying down there right now. There might be one in my yard. There was probably 30 of them or 40 this morning over here.
So there
And
isn't
it's-
it's not going to be fixed like today. And it's probably going to be fixed tomorrow kind of thing. But I think as you continue this, that fence looks good. And you look better right there than some of the fence contractors I see around here. So I mean, you're
It's
building
a lot
a good
of
one
it's
here.
a lot of work to watch them get destroyed, and this all happened within a week, you know. And then I call up you guys, and you're like, "Well, this is the first we've ever heard of the deer problem." That's what Brian Reichling and Jack Robb said,
Well, here's I want to explain something.
And then you're
on
sitting
this.
there saying that you guys known about it.
See, and I wish you'd have called our office. We've been down here and talked to you. We learned about it way after the fact.
Well, what's
But-
what's interesting is I just
So-
told them, I says, I'm going to do whatever I have to protect myself. So they said, you'd be guilty of a Class C felony. And I says, what's the law? What's the law that says that? And they couldn't explain the law to me. So they got Brian Stockton, the Attorney General's office.
Well, as
involved.
far as I'm concerned right now, dude, that's a water under the bridge, sir.
I-
You're dealing with us, and we live here. So we're here to
The-
actually, let's see what we can do between ourselves and work something out, because it went to the top long
And-
before any of us knew about it. And outside of him, he's a traveling rover. He's supposed to live in Elko, but he runs clear down almost to Vegas because he's doing deer and antelope depth work. But the rest of us are local here, so we can work some things out. That's what I'm trying to explain to you.
but
When I don't know about it,
what-
and he doesn't know, and we can't come and chat with you and see.
What's interesting
come with
though
it.
is
So-
it's just past the buck. I mean, I don't know who the local reps are here. So
You
I looked
look
up
it
the
up
Reno
and
number.
Ask
and
around.
I went on the internet and said NDOW phone number. And
So-
that's where I started. And then I got two people that just said, oh, you need to build a bigger fence. Oh, you need to put in sprinklers that are motion censored. I'm like, you realize where I live. How do
Those
you
work.
maintain that?
Those work.
And then
And so
how do
there's
you
a lot of
maintain
options
that?
and a lot of.
I can't afford that.
So that falls off the option list. Those are different things. So there's stuff we can work out here.
And then
We're in the middle of a process as far as I'm concerned, because you're starting your process here, and then
Right.
we'll, we can do some things, maybe not, but you're working on it, so we have some options here. But we start clear up here instead of starting down here at the ground level. And anything that's in this type of process that I'd like to do, let's start with here. So
Well,
I've never met you before.
yeah.
I didn't even know anybody lived here.
it would be
Or-
nice, but it
Because I actually thought Gary Lane owned this property. So
seems like it just passes the buck. I mean, that's the thing that I don't like dealing with people on, is because everybody goes, well, it's not his fault, it's his fault. Well, you need to talk to him. You need to talk to him.
well,
And-
we're here, and I'm not going to talk about whatever happened in the past, because that's not going to fix the problem for the future.
Right.
Now, does that sound like a deal? Can we start on that level
Yeah,
playing
let's-
field?
that-
We're going to
yeah.
work for the future here.
Let's
We're not
look-
going to argue about the past.
Let's look for.
Can we agree on that?
Yeah, let's look for
Okay.
an administrative
Let's go take a look
remedy.
at some
That's
fencing and
that's
see what we
I'm
can do to
trying
fix this
come up
problem.
with.
All right. But you did good here. You got tight here.
Well, I tried. I mean, the fence ain't as tight as I wanted to, and I never did get the bottom wire on. But I mean,
It works if you put the bottom on first and then wrap it up. It'll be easier. Because then what you can do is you can tie that every so often in. You catch it here and then hog ring it.
well,
with
you
your
can look
tension
at
wire.
how I did this one on
You
that
do it
side.
on the other one?
Yeah.
That'll help. But
That's-
those are just a little bit light. I don't think you're going to have that problem on them big posts. 2 3/8 posts are just
Right,
they're
and
a
I-
hell of a lot beefier. So
And I
you'll
can't
do good.
afford the 2 3/8 posts for down the other side. So
Now here's an. Well, these are. See, there's a difference. This is BSS tubing pipe instead of water pipe. Schedule 20 or Schedule 40.
right,
You see what I'm saying?
right.
So if you want to buy 20 or 40, buy it in stick, and
That's-
then you just cut your own.
This is
Yeah, this is
extremely
gross.
right.
So-
And that's what I wanted to put in, and that's what I got for a corner post down at the other end.
Okay. So we'll have to come up with a gate, all right?
Right. That's where there's going to be a gate, but it's like it's pretty discouraging when you get this kind of damage from an animal coming from the outside in.
Once you get the rest of your fence built, I mean, there's enough good stuff around here, around your property, that they won't pressure this one so much.
I don't know. I have people tell me all the time, why is there so many deer in your yard? And
You might want to pull that just a touch tighter. Not much.
it would be nice. The other side I stretched a little tight and I got a little narrow, so
Okay.
it's
Have you had to come over and fight this other fence then?
no, just before it was built, there was a spot, and I think it was that same doe. But the problem I got too is all of these trees. Well, that one's dead now. This is new. God damn, that's like a 10-year-old peach tree right there. Look at the damage on that thing. How am I supposed to sustain that? Is that intimate, your property being threatened by animals right there? I mean, that is so disgusting. It's just like that tree. When it was young, look at the side of it.
Yeah, I've got same issues at my place. similar.
But somehow there's got to be a long-term solution to this. And
in my opinion, I think you're doing a really good job by fencing it off.
I think when you're fenced, I think you will have a solution.
how do you get it done fast enough? Huh?
That's how hard you want to work.
I can't work that hard. Like this back fence, nobody can keep up a fence with the deer around here. I mean, I was looking at this fence, just the barbed wire. Every one of the ties in between it are just shot. And is it normal? Look at that size of that buck right there. He's not scared of us at all.
Yeah, that's normal. I deal with a lot of deer that I can drive right by them and they won't even get up.
Well, you guys, from what I've read, you used to chase them out of town. The NDOW used to chase them out of town all the time.
I'm not.
And then they started giving out the landowner tags to try and solve the problem of not having to chase them out of town. All of this is new. This is all this year. I planted this grass and raked it and put it in, and it's just getting destroyed. There's the other tree that's destroyed. And the statute, NRS 501, what is it, .376? Are you familiar with that one?
Not sure. Which one is that?
Yeah, I'm familiar with it.
Huh?
I'm familiar with it.
Where it talks about 2B, is it? I think it's part 2B.
What?
That you can protect your property against threat, person or property.
Person.
No,
I
I
would make
believe-
those holes bigger if you can get a bigger auger.
They always have to get bigger because they're always off to one side or another. I end up using almost a yard of cement in 5 holes is all I can get. Not quite a yard. It's about
So
a backhoe.
they'll be bigger in diameter.
Right,
than-
because you never can get the pole in there.
Yeah, that's
And
saying.
I use a small gas auger, and then I can use a post hole digger and a bar once I get to that part.
Oh, okay. So I thought
know,
maybe
and,
I was trying to figure out how you were tractor augering. I don't see the tractor marks, but
No, it's a
That's-
handheld.
that's a hand
it's
auger,
a
like a
handheld thing. And what I do
earthquake
is
or
I
something like that.
I
Okay.
stretch a string, and then yeah, exactly. And then,
Okay.
then I'm limited on where the roots
I was gonna
are.
say, if you're going to put a 2 3/8 post in there with
Yeah,
that much, you don't have enough weight just to hold the post up. So, but if you're going to make it bigger, that's awesome. Then. Okay.
they always end up bigger. I
Okay.
mean, there's a ton of cement around that corner.
I
'Cause-
seen a corner one. I figured because it's so much
and-
bigger.
And even these, they end up bigger because you end up working your butt off trying to get around the roots and sawing the roots out. And
Yeah, especially a big old elm tree like that. That thing's got,
oh, huge root bundle.
he's been here for who knows how long. My
And then they leveled the land, so I've moved my fence over, trying to remedy that.
Oh, they squared out the. Is this fill here? Or
No,
he's leveled.
They leveled and took
did
it right
whatever,
next
so
to
yeah,
the
you have
fence.
slope or something.
Right.
Okay, got it. Right. That's one thing. If this was fill, this is really hard. That's going to be harder on your poles too.
Oh, exactly.
So,
You know, exactly.
but if
But that's why I've moved the fence over. There's a little bit of fill in spots here, but not much.
Okay.
But this is the kind of shit that the deer do. I have fixed this fence over and over again, but they very seldom ever clear it cleanly. You know,
Yeah, with that hill right there.
even
like-
without the hill, it don't matter if they're on flat ground any place.
Yeah.
And that's what the ranchers complain about is they can't keep their fence up and can't keep their cows in. But I notice you guys always if somebody calls and there's a problem with a coyote someplace, they come out with an airplane and just fly it and shoot
That's
it.
not us.
That's
not
really
us. That is USDA, Wildlife
it.
Administrative Services,
It-
APHIS.
Yeah, it
That's-
really
we
amuses
don't
me
do that.
though, because it screws up the ecosystem for the deer, as far as I'm concerned.
But that's not us.
But-
I hear that a lot, and we have nothing. That is a federal government program.
And you guys are
don't-
just state.
We don't deal with that at all. That's across the street from our office. That's them. They
Right.
run on the term Wildlife Services, but it's not the people that do government trapping, airport control work, bird work, things like that. That has absolutely nothing to do with what we do.
All you
That's
guys do is
totally
deer then?
No. It's- No,
State wildlife.
that's, you're talking, yeah, state wildlife, we're a state wildlife management agency. That, what, when you talk about coyote and they come bring an airplane or whatever, that's a federal government program under the United States Department of Agriculture.
So the guy that lives down here that flies, or the government trapper, he's federal then.
Yes,
Nothing
sir.
to do with the
Yeah,
state.
Scott Little. down
Yeah,
there.
Scott. Yeah.
Yeah, no, he works for APHIS, is another animal plant health inspection service.
Yeah, I don't know all the acronyms
So
for
that's
it.
them, yeah. That we make sure that we have nothing to do with flying, and because we get accused of it a lot as an agency.
Well,
We
the thing
fly
that,
and kill coyotes or kill this or kill that, I'm like, we
the
don't
thing
do
that
that.
the thing that just
So-
amazes me is it just, you know, the coyotes are in the fields all the time getting gophers, right? And then if there's a bad deer, they probably eat it too.
probably, yeah.
You know, so it's part of the ecosystem. But I have watched this herd in Preston grow to unbelievable numbers. I mean, just tons and tons of deer.
Hey, I'll be straight up honest with you. They're safe. Mr. Lane does not allow hunting on his property. Most of the properties around here do not allow hunting on their properties.
Now-
You have those types of situations.
Now
those
let me
deer aren't stupid.
let me see. Right.
They're not going to go out there and willingly get harvested or run into issues. You have predator control here because they take care of whatever and handle all that. So that's going to be one of those problems that I think we find hunting allowed here. And
Well,
that's part of
let me
an
ask you
issue
this.
that is a compounding factor.
You
So,
guys issue Gary Lane landowner tax, right?
I have no idea.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, and in the process of getting that landowner tag, I noticed there's a provision in there where he has to, once he accepts a landowner tag from you guys, he has to allow hunters on his property.
He has to allow the person who receives the landowner tag on his property, but discharge of firearms is prohibited in this area. So
Just why is that?
That's
What?
county ordinance.
It's only after dark. What county ordinance is it? What count?
No, it's not after dark. And
What-
for like where we're zoned here,
What's the zoning here?
RE 43, residential estate 43.
And now is that considered the Preston Township?
That I don't know what that means, but for your zone, RA 5, R1, R2, R3, RA 2.5, those all fall underneath the no discharge of firearms, pellet guns, anything like that in those areas.
That's interesting.
But the,
So-
now
so-
the thing for the nighttime thing, White Pine County did have an ordinance
Right.
that was half an hour after sunset to half an hour before, and they have repealed that. However, their congested area zones are still, no discharge is still the same.
So you would consider this like a congestive area zone? Is that what you're trying to get at?
That's what White Pine County Sheriff's Office defines these as. So RE 43, residential estate 43, which is what you're zoned at,
Right.
is you're inside that. And you go through how they spell out all that stuff, you're in the zone where you're not supposed to shoot inside these zones.
Unless you're in imminent danger of threat by your property or person.
Your person, yeah, there's that deal in there. There's an exception.
Can you read that to me? The
have
501-376. Do you want me to look it up?
I'm not going to get into a legal argument with you.
No,
You have
no,
to, and they go
it's
through whatever
it
is.
strictly spells out
However,
your person
the
or
thing of, I
property.
think you were going to look at when you want to get into wildlife law and stuff on there, that's talking about if you have a mountain lion that comes in here and you have like lambs or goats or something on your property, you have lawful right to kill it to protect your property. I think it's going to be a very hard argument when you're going to talk about trees and you go over and kill some deer. That's not for me to decide one way or the other.
Right,
That's for
right.
a judge and a jury
Well,
and a prosecutor.
well, there's supposed to be an administrative remedy for this, and that's what I'm
And
looking
that's
at
what we're
trying
finally
to
here
solve.
for, to try and work out something one way or the other. Now, see, now going back into history, I thought we shook our hands and said we're going to talk about the future, not the past. Right, sir?
Right.
We shook. I
But,
thought we made a deal.
but the deal we're making is we're trying
Now
to
we're
work
not
out
changing.
an
We're coming out here to
administrative
try and
remedy.
fix a problem.
Right.
Okay?
An
You just brought the
administrative
history
remedy.
back up, and I thought that was water under the bridge. That's what we agreed to and shook our hands on right up there.
Okay, let's
All
move
right,
forward.
okay,
What
let's go.
administrative remedy are we going to come up with?
Right now, your remedy at the moment is you got to keep building fence
That's the remedy that you guys are.
and go from there. Because that's the situation we're basically sitting at.
What-
Now, we can fence some trees. If you got more fencing, fence your trees. I fence my trees just to keep the rabbits away from them, my chickens. So that would be one thing I would do. And those are things that are here. county code's not going to change. That's just how that one is. And I think, as Tyler said and Cody said,
No, I know.
after we get some fencing built here, I think we're going to be okay.
We've got enough other stuff right here that, it's not
Get
such
you-
high value here that I don't think they're going to be pressuring it.
You would like to think if you guys come down here at night, 10 o'clock, and take a look, you would be just amazed.
Oh, I know. I've been down here. We spotlighted this counting deer. Same way I spotlight Ely, figuring out what's going on. So the thing is, though, we have half of a solution. I say half of the solution's here. The other half of the solution is coming because you're putting your sweat equity into it. And I think that'll be a deal. I did see that thing that AG Stockton, I don't understand those things and I don't know what they mean, but it sounds like you have an opportunity to put in a claim with the state. That's your right. Put in a claim and see what they say to you. I never heard of such a thing, but I read it on that one letter he sent you. So there's an option for you as well.
What letter was that you're referring to?
The one that came in the mail. That's all it said on via mail. It was addressed to you.
From Stockton?
From AG Stockton. He
Yeah,
had
I
that thing
got
on
that
the
letter.
back that I'm not 100% sure what it means, but
Well, what he
something
sent
where
was
you
a
can set
tort
claim in.
application.
Yeah, that's what it was.
But I'm not going to go through a tort application. I can tell you that right
I don't
now.
even know.
I've never heard of it.
I don't know what that means.
Because what I'm doing is asking for an administrative remedy to solve this
I
problem.
don't even know what that means. What I'm saying is that we're here, we're coming through there. That looked like whatever that solution is, and I think the rest of your solution is coming. You're fencing yourself out. Like I said up there, we put a little flagging here and there to get that distractor to where they see something that's outside of just that steady chain link that maybe they don't miss, especially in a panic. And I'm not saying, like I said up there, not leave it there forever and a day.
Neither one of them.
Take it down for a little
Well.
bit and when things go. But I think when you have this done, and like I said, as long as you're good on your gates, I think you're going to be okay. We have the occasional one gets in, we herd the thing out, and that's that. So I think the remedy is presenting itself. It's here, it's your sweat equity that's going into it, and go from there. So, and then, make it less inviting for them. If there's
Oh, I see. Just turned into a junkyard. Let my
No, I
trees
did not
die and
say
my
that.
grass
say
die.
if they're down
How would
here,
I make it less inviting?
Use a popper. If you got a popper, get them out of the fence. I don't know, those types of things, noisemakers. It's what we've done with the down here in Lund when the vultures come in. Tell them to run poppers. Get them up out of the trees so they're not roosting in the trees above your home and your vehicles. Those
I've
are
never
options.
even seen that. Yeah, I have no idea.
They're noise bangs.
But yeah, I have no idea of anybody in London that's using that.
Notice that the vultures aren't here too often anymore?
I-
It worked.
Why don't we come up with some way for getting the deer out of here? That's the. Other than it's
that's
it's
one of
all
the ways
once
of getting
again
the deer
it's
is
all
using a
on me.
popper
I have to
to-
suffer the damage of the tree destruction, and I tell you what, if they were destroying a field like somebody is destroying a fruit tree that somebody's trying to make their livelihood off of, every one of these deer would be dead. The ranchers wouldn't put up with it for a second.
I don't know on that one. But I gave you a couple remedies. There's noise poppers. You're getting the deer out of your
I have
area.
no idea
You're
what a
making
noise popper is.
Just some kind of noise device.
Look them
Anything.
up at any of the
I've
nuisance
seen the
wildlife stuff.
propane cannons and stuff
No,
like
no,
that.
no,
I've seen
no,
the
don't get into
I've seen
that. That's
the
just too
hanging.
much expense. They're called poppers. They're designed to be used against birds and mammals and other things. Find them in any nuisance wildlife. Gimpler sells them. Nuisance wildlife catalogs.
They would just get used to them and come in anyway. I mean, that's the thing.
All right. Here's the deal. Every suggestion we put out, you've kowtowed it, thrown it on the ground. We can't help you. You don't help too.
That's
So we're giving you
amazing.
suggestions of some things to do, and every time, in 4 suggestions we've just done here, you've thrown it back at us. So it's kind
Well,
of one of these.
the-
What more would you like us to say?
The
I'm
thing
sitting
that
here going,
amazes
here's
me,
noise options to harass them out. As you're building this, life's getting better.
you can't even tell me what the law is on
can
the
tell you what the-
501.376, and everybody that I talk to
Do
in
not
NDOW
kill, aid,
convinced
abet, or intentionally kill big game
completes
mammals.
to
It's all
read
in there.
the property damage, imminent threat to protect your person or property.
And if that deer's got
Everybody
you pinned to the tree,
quit-
then he's an imminent threat to you. I would 100%
So-
agree to that.
so-
But your
so-
property, I think you're going to push it a little bit when you're talking about trees.
So you think a jury would convict me by saying that that's normal
don't know.
behavior of a deer
I'm
coming
not a
in
jury.
through a fence? Right.
You're asking
Right.
questions that I can't answer because I'm not the jury.
You won't even tell me what the law is. You don't even have the statute. That's the thing that's amazing to me. And you're doing the same thing that we're going to go into the past, because that's exactly the same thing that Brian and them do. Oh, just build your fence higher. Then the other guy in Reno says, build an 8-foot fence. A 6-foot ain't enough.
6
So-
foot will do you just
So,
fine.
so now I'm up against, don't build a 6-foot fence to build an 8-foot fence. You know,
solutions
now you're
are
going
coming.
back
You
to
keep
build a
building
6-foot
fence.
fence.
And you know, I think you're gonna be okay. We told you, harass them out.
And
Use
then-
some pop bangs. Get them to go. Get them to where they're uninvited. I didn't say anything
well.
about making a junkyard. So make it to where they're uninvited.
Uninvited, yeah,
That means
uninvited.
make them noise, make them uncomfortable. They leave.
Just let my grass die and get rid of all of the work that I did. Get rid of my fruit trees, and that would be uninviting. Because obviously they're more invited here than they are.
You're
in
taking an
that
awfully
field.
dramatic track, and obviously we're beyond the point of trying to fix a few things. We're telling you.
So
to
your administrative
pop some
remedy
things,
is for me to build a fence.
build a fence and make life uninviting. Put
that's-
the noise pop. Make noise poppers when they're in here.
Are you going to
'em
provide the
out.
noise poppers?
You have to purchase those on your own.
You going to provide any help to build a fence?
Nope.
That's what I thought.
It's a fence out state. So
That-
you're doing it. We're working on it. And yeah, it's not easy. I'll give you that. I've built a lot of fence. I know, sir. I've built fence for cattle, for elk exclusion, 395 corridor for deer problems to keep them from getting hit on 395. Building fence is work. I understand that. And the fence you're building right here, this fence is going to stand up a lot better than that one, just basically on the materials.
Are you a
So you're
disabled person?
disabled?
Yeah, right. You got any disabilities?
Not that I know of.
And building fences just work for you? Yeah, I can understand that. Do you realize I'm a disabled person?
I don't care and I don't question. Those
Oh.
are your prerogatives for you. That's up to you thing. I'm not going to pick you one way or the other. And then 2 shoulder
So-
surgeries and back surgery. I mean,
so-
I know how life hurts and pain.
so-
But the
so-
thing is, if you're disabled, that's a you.
So you-
I can't help you on that or do anything for you. And
You're-
those things,
you're-
I don't know what that is for you.
You're
And I'm
ad-
not going to question your disabilities if you have
your,
some
your
on you.
administrative relief for me is to just tell me to build a fence. That's your suggestions.
Or-
Is
or
that all
tell
of you guys' suggestions?
Poppers, doing some noises to harass
it
them out.
works.
You harass them out, and
We've made
you know
that suggestion quite a few places in the state. I mean, it's not uncommon. That seems to be the most effective way of keeping animals out.
What's the compensation for the property damage?
For as far as the compensation tax,
No, you guys got anything available to you by the Nevada Administrative Code to compensate anybody for damage?
not for deer and antelope, no.
And now you're saying it's not for deer and antelope?
Not monetary damage lost, no. We can't compensate you monetarily. That's the damage compensation tags. That's how we do it.
And is that considered a monetary damage?
It
Do you
depends
guys
upon
feel
you.
that it's discriminating to say that somebody with 2.5 acres has got to have 50 head of deer when you guys decide to count them to be compensated the same as somebody that's got a hay field?
That wasn't our decision. That was a multi-pronged decision that came up with the 50 animals constitutes one damage tag, one compensation tag.
We don't set state law.
That was set by
Nevada
the
law.
No, it's all by the legislature, right? And then the Nevada Administrative Code
we just have to follow it.
outlaws what you guys do, right?
Yeah. We're not the ones setting the law.
The Administrative Code outlines what you guys have to do,
Correct.
right? And so you're saying the only damage compensation for me is the law that says you have to have 50 acres,
50 deer.
50 deer in the
there's no acreage that I know of.
50 deer in your property.
Yes.
That's the only administrative relief that you guys can see.
As far as damage compensation tags, yeah, that's it.
So
Like
you have
you were
any
saying,
other
the
damage
bumpers.
compensation?
Those are other options.
Other
that
than
we
you're trying to
frequently
come and tell me that to spend my money on poppers or whatever I need to.
Noise making devices to make the place uninviting. And then as you finish your fencing, I think your problem will go away. Because it won't be here anymore. It'll be too difficult for them.
I did it at my house.
build your next fence like you built this fence, you're gonna be in good
Well,
shape.
what amuses me is you guys just turn your nose up to the tree damage that I have.
But you can see it. There's trees in the rest of town that's like it too. If you put some fencing in around that tree and a support to help hold him up, I don't know if that's how you originally did it or not. I don't know.
That tree isn't going to survive once they're barked all the way around it. They're not going to
Yes, I
survive.
understand that.
And then they don't do very well when the sprouts or the is around them, like I've got the other ones, because the deer come by and chew the limbs off. And then it limits the tree to try to grow up right in the center of it.
You have several trees fenced up there.
Yeah.
Right. And they're like 6 years old and they struggle to grow because the deer come by and reach over the fence or reach and get the limbs that are fenced out
You
of.
can build them a little wider too.
I've built them big, I've built them small, but it still don't matter. You get a buck that's willing to do that kind of damage and that kind of damage to your fences, they will push in until they can knock the limbs off. And they're, I guess, I don't know, you guys call them grazers or whatever. They don't sit there and eat the whole tree. They just go from one tree to another, you know,
Yeah, they move.
and take a bite and they destroy this one and go to the next one.
Yeah. So I think when you have this up, you're not going to have that. As long as you don't have a rabbit problem here, you'll be good. They won't hurdle your trees. The solutions are here. Make it uninviting until you get this done. As long as you're good with your gates, I think you're going to do fine. It's a work in progress.
Well, yeah, as everything gets destroyed. That's the thing that's so amazing, you know. You lose your trees, you lose what you're building the fence for. So then what's the purpose of building the fence once everything's destroyed?
Well, like I said a little bit ago, you're going fatalistic on us.
Fatalistic. I'm fatalistic and not, yeah, that's interesting. So you guys haven't read the code where anytime you issue a landowner permit, it's to allow hunting, and it read to me like throughout the season, anytime on anybody's property.
Throughout any open season in that hunt unit.
So that, yeah, right, and that's the only time that it'd be anybody legally hunting anyway.
Right.
And that's just not landowner tags.
What do you mean?
I mean, what I'm getting at is that is not just the person's property that enters into an agreement with you guys on the landowner tags agrees to allow hunters to come onto his property anytime throughout the season.
That's not the case.
And you're saying that's not the case?
Yes.
Okay. I'll research that a little bit more.
Okay. Yeah, the way it works is, say you applied and you qualified for a landowner tag here, the only hunter you have to allow on your property is the one who gets that landowner tag.
For the landowner tag.
But the general Joe Schmo who draws a buck tag doesn't have permission to come on your property.
I see. Yeah, that's interesting. Before you guys come down here to tell me build more fence.
We just came down to document firsthand what's going on and try and offer some solutions to you. I mean, nobody's been down here to see it, so.
Right. Yeah, the NAC also says that 10 days from the time I complain, but what's interesting is it seems like the rules are just kind of arbitrary.
I was made aware of the situation, I think, last Wednesday, and that's, what's that been, 4 or 5 days?
Yeah,
I mean,
today's what, Monday? Monday. So you should get another letter. I've got another letter for the follow-up on Stockton also.
Okay.
Yeah, that tree won't survive either. That's
It'll
dead.
live. If you treat it, it'll live.
That tree?
Oh, I thought
That one will. That one will just look funny for a long time. That tree's dead there. That won't survive.
yeah, this one here, if you treat it,
No, that doesn't surviving even without being treated. And it's probably big enough that they won't kill it now.
It's got just a touch of leakage right there, which is not super good, but it's got no bugs.
Yeah, it's so let me ask you this. The landowner compensation tag program was all, and don't get me wrong, I can't stand to eat deer. I don't want nothing to do with them. But that compensation tag was developed to keep you guys from having to herd them up and take them out of town.
It was developed to offer landowners that are sustaining damage a means to make money and recoup that damage, compensate them.
To compensate them. But also prior to that landowner tag thing, I've read where you guys used to, when a deer got into a neighborhood, you just got rid of it.
I'm not sure. I've been around that long, so I'm not sure.
I believe that was 91, if I'm not mistaken.
I wasn't born quite yet, so.
I was in high school, so I can't help that. And I'm the oldest one out of this bunch. So for those things in the history, I don't know. I can't say. If you read it, then that's probably accurate. But that's long before our time. We work underneath what the set of rules are now.
Well, do you got your statute book with you?
Then we find one in the truck and go on and
Let's read
I'm not gonna
501
argue that. We already argued that
376.
down
No, you can't. You don't say property. You just say imminent death of a person. And I want you to read that statute to
there.
me.
Because property, I'm not reading it. You
You're-
can read it for yourself, and if something happens, then that's for a district attorney and a judge to decide whatever's ever.
Do you know who referred me to that statute?
No idea.
Stockton, Attorney General. And what's interesting is the first part of that statute, it says you can't kill him from an aircraft, and then he quit. But he'd already told me the number. He quit reading it to me. And then in his letter, you've seen his letter? He quotes the case Christie v. Heibel. Have you read that case?
Have not, no.
Well, right there in that case, I don't even see how it applies, and I'll tell you why. The case talks about an endangered species, a grizzly bear. Is the deer here in any kind of an endangered species?
They're not classified, no.
They're not classified.
They are protected.
Huh?
They are protected
Yeah,
species.
they're considered a game animal, so they're protected under state law.
They're not an endangered species by any means.
No.
Now, one of the things that happened in that case is he called the authorities, to come out because the guy's sheep was getting ate by a grizzly bear. But mind you, he is grazing them on public lands also. So he calls them right away, a government hunter or a game warden or whatever. I don't even remember the terminology they used. But come out, and they tried to trap it. They tried to hunt it. And then he ended up shooting it to protect his sheep. An endangered species. And they're trying to say that case is the similar situation. The AG.
Yeah, I can't speak to what.
It's like I told you down there.
referenced.
You had a mountain lion in here and you had sheep and you killed the mountain lion because he was killing your sheep. You're golden. All you gotta do is call us. We come pick up the cat, and that's that. So
Well, there's
I
other
don't
statutes
understand.
on
I don't know what
wasting
other
the
case
meat.
is. I've never read it. I don't know how he's pulling his things. I'm not a lawyer. That's that. But that's what I told you down there. And I also said, I think that's going to be a little hard if you
So,
put a tree
so,
in there because most of that's written as those types of things. That's not for me to decide.
so
those
what
that-
law would I be breaking if I was to kill a deer to protect myself and my property? And my property.
That law right there. 501376. Kill the deer without a valid tag. Now, if you fall underneath the exemptions, then it's not. That's not for me to decide. That's for other people to decide.
So what you're saying is I'd be arrested if I killed one?
I don't know.
You don't know, huh?
There's lots of options to it. You're local. You're not going anywhere. Criminal complaints work.
Right. But you would sign a criminal complaint? It
Those
would
aren't
be.
decisions for me to make. They're decisions for the district attorney to make.
Oh, so
That's how that goes.
so what I need to do probably is to get an interpretation of the law through district court and the district attorney.
That's up to you.
Because I find it really amusing too that they call this R8, RE41 or RE And there isn't a county cop that will enforce any ordinance down here. There's several ordinance in the zoning laws of how
That's
many
beyond
animals
me.
you can have on your property, your dogs.
Those types of things. That's not us. If you have issues with zoning or how it is, then you need to discuss that with the sheriff. And I don't know if White Pine County has
They're-
a zoning officer or building inspector that does it or what. I
They,
don't
they,
know.
they completely ignored the zoning laws already.
That's their.
I mean, you can
their
you
thing.
can you can
You'll have to
Google
deal with it that way. So
Google White Pine 10. That's the road that's supposed to go right up the White River Road that goes right through right there, and it's closed off.
but those aren't decisions for us to make. I think if, like we've discussed, you keep building fence, your problem will go away.
So
You can use a deterrence with some poppers, get them harassed out whichever directions you need to go, do those types of things, tie tight like you have done, like this one, like I said, that one maybe a little bit more. That fence you stretched really good. Stretch them a little tighter, that helps them hold up better, and you tie them well. And I would recommend a tension wire, and then so you don't end up with a rabbit problem, try and float your wire closer to the ground or backfill it so you don't have rabbits coming in girdling your trees too.
there's rabbits are not a problem here.
Okay.
They
Well, that's good, because a lot of places it's constant rabbit problem. Girdling trees, eating flowers, eating gardens and that. So
now
that's one way
now
to go.
rabbits are not a protected species, so we're not talking about the same here
Depends on
either.
what kind of
Are
rabbit it is.
so like a cottontail or a
Cottontail's
jackrabbit
protected. It's a game species.
is there a seasonal
Yeah,
hunt on
yeah,
that?
seasons.
So if it's a cottontail and not a jackrabbit, there is a season.
Say that again.
If
Alan?
it's a cottontail and not a jackrabbit, there is a season, right?
There is a season. Jackrabbits are a non-protected species.
Coyotes are non-protected. They're considered a varmint, right?
They're unprotected species.
Okay. What about crows?
Season.
There is a season on
Yes.
crows now?
Crows are protected. Ravens are protected. There is no season on ravens.
What is here? Crows or ravens?
Ravens.
That's what I thought.
They're the big ones. You'll have more of that hook on the beak, and they're kind of shaggy right here. But crow, raven.
Are they a cross here or just a, well, that's kind of off the subject. Huh?
They don't interbreed.
Crows and ravens don't interbreed.
No, you have, and pretty much, like I said, it's a raven. There's pretty much what we have. You go on the other side of the state, they have more crows. This side of the state, we have ravens. I can't say I've ever actually seen a crow here.
So I guess back, well, moving forward, I've exhausted my administrative relief then.
I think you're on, you're on the path.
The only relief you guys see is to come tell me to keep building my fence, and
Keep building fence. When you get this
That's
done,
it.
your problems will go away. You won't have to worry about even fencing your trees on the inside unless you end up with a rodent issue or something like that, or a rabbit. So I think your solution's coming. And I realize that building fence is hard work. I'm building fence for myself personally right now too. I don't know. I get tired of digging holes. So I think when you have that done and your gates and stuff, your problem will go away.
I don't have a problem other than
And
my
as winter
disability
comes,
of.
the fruit that you had and the other niceties here won't be here, and so you'll have a reprieve from them, and you'll start spring with no deer in here. You'll be
No.
pretty good.
No, they'll be in here in the spring. They'll be in here all winter. There's open water down there. I mean, the deer have literally got a resort here in Preston.
But
And-
we're talking about
and-
your chunk property.
One of the
So
one
you
of the
get
other
that
problems.
taken care of. They don't have any water. A lot of your fruit's gone. I don't know. Were you lucky enough to get any fruit?
I don't have any water here, but what I'm talking about, there's plenty of open water in Preston for the deer.
Yeah. And
They will stay here all
we're
winter.
talking about your 2 acre
Right.
here, not.
But the deer come in if they're in
not
town.
here and you get a fence, by the time you green up and relief come spring, you won't have an issue because you'll have this up all the way around as long as you're good with your gates. That's what I'm saying.
That tree will be dead, and that one down there is dead too. So that's the damage that I've already sustained. And then the fence, you're telling me that it's normal for deer to ram the outside of a
We've already been
fence.
down that. Those are
Right.
the options. That's that. Okay.
All right, yeah, I find it really interesting.
Mr. Judd, it was nice to meet you. Keep building your fence. I think your solutions will come.
What was your name again? I'm sorry, I forgot it already.
Scott, Giles.
Scott.